AK, Donnie, Aaron, Liz, welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited to work with you all today. Thank you so much for being here. For people who aren't familiar with you and all the incredible stuff you're doing in the volleyball space, would you mind filling them in a little bit about who you are and all the amazing things you've got going on?
Well, my name's Ashley Kowalewski. Go by AK if you've ever met me in real life, or in any context in the field. Currently at Louisiana State University. I've had volleyball now for 3 years. It's been very different than my background in softball, baseball, overhead rotational sports. Turns out it's the exact same, just a little different. Um, it's been really, really neat. So I've got volleyball, I've got women's tennis. It's um, a lot of bodies. But volleyball has definitely been a challenge, and over the last 3 years, I think I've changed a lot about the way that I approach things, and Donnie is one of the people that I've gone and seen the way he does things and gleaned things from him and other people in the field. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
I can jump in next. My name's Liz Dupree. I currently am at the University of Louisville, working there with the volleyball team and then also women's tennis and women's golf. I'm now in my third year here with this team and with this program, but I'm relatively new overall to not the sport, but this level. I was at a Division II school prior to this, so a lot of learning about a lot of things in the last few years, but it's just been a really fun ride with the rise of volleyball and, working with a fairly successful program. Really grateful to be where I'm at.
I can hop in next because I want to make sure we save the best for last with Donnie. But
That's right.
and Duvall, I'm the newbie in the volleyball world, especially in this conversation. So I just finished up my first season with Pitt volleyball. It's definitely the most like rewarding, fulfilling year of my career. And a lot of that's attributed to the experience I got to have with volleyball. So it's a pleasure to be in conversation with great minds like this. But yeah, I definitely know that in the context of the sport, I'm still the one drinking through a fire hose, but still loving every day of it.
Hey everybody, my name is Donnie Maib. I'm our director of Olympic sports at the University of Texas, and definitely have worked with women's volleyball probably well over 20 years. Worked with them. I was at Colorado in my first coaching career job. Worked with them there, and I'll probably say I probably have made way more mistakes working with those ladies than I have successes, but I've learned the most from that. Yeah, they like you said, Aaron. It is a very rewarding team to work with. The chemistry, the teamwork, and the buy-in, and the level, like we talked about before we hopped on. The level of volleyball is just getting to be such a high level, and so many people are drawn to it. So it's a fun sport. So glad to be on today.
Absolutely. It's so fast paced and it's one of those sports that you just never know what can happen, right? And obviously you all represent some of the best programs and working with some of the best athletes within the sport that way. And it's just electric to see what the athletes in this sport are doing, from the verticals they're doing repeatedly over and over and over again to how hard they hit the ball. I was very, very new to the kind of sports science analytics world of volleyball until I've gone to a few games and literally seen people sitting at the end, like literally with like a freaking radar gun, recording the speed of every like serve. Like it's unbelievable what goes into this sport. And it's something that I think I didn't get a full exposure to growing up in middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. And a lot of people in those smaller towns have aspirations to go far with a sport like volleyball, right? There was several athletes that I worked with when I was over in Maryland, small town, middle of nowhere, Eastern Shore, Maryland, that had goals of D1 volleyball, and many achieved that. But the constant question came up from them and their families of what should we be doing to prep them for the D1 level, because we don't know. And it's like, hey, we're taking them to a trainer, but they don't work with volleyball athletes, and we're just doing the best we can here. What should we be doing to prep for this? And we turn to the podcast and we turn to people like you for that, and I'd love to hear from all of you on that. What kind of things are you looking for in incoming athletes at the D1 level for volleyball that way? Is there anything in particular you want the freshmen coming in to have physically developed, or some kind of like exercise movement IQ level or something like that? Or where do we kind of go from that incoming class, if you will?
I can start off there. I mean, I think this isn't super specific just to the context of volleyball. I think this is probably general enough to apply to all other sports as well. But and not to sound too basic, but like just some sort of general training age is always really nice to have. Like it's almost like kind of a binary system for me, where like if I'm talking to a recruit, it's like, have you had access to a weight room or some level of training? And it's like, if they say yes, it's like regardless of what level that experience really is, like they're going to be at an advantage coming into the program, and just having some sort of level of like movement literacy, and like a general athleticism outside of the context of just their sport. Like that's going to help them get caught up to speed quickly. When it comes to us and like our weight room training, I don't think I'm not going to say like it's a necessity or even a high priority to have like, you need a great trainer, you need to do all this type of training and do this and that. Like the ones that I know we've had right now, and last year with our incoming classes for volleyball, like if some of them have had like they've worked with a trainer or strength coach for the last, since they were 10, 11 years old, and some of them just had a couple sessions a week towards like their last senior year of high school, and like all of them come in and pick up where we try to uh you know lift them up from, in their first few weeks, like pretty much the same. And I don't want to like discredit those that have like that longer or more level or greater level of experience with that prior training, but because I think it's absolutely helpful for them. But in the ultimate thing, it kind of goes back to that binary system of like, do you have some sort of competency like moving with resistance? Yes, great. If you haven't had that, that's not like a prerequisite to play good D1 volleyball. We have a freshman right now that I am their first trainer or strength coach, so to speak. So it's their learning curve is going to be a little bit different, but fortunately they're talented athletes, so they're going to pick it up pretty quick at the same time. So yeah.
Yeah, I can kind of piggyback off of that. I mean, very similar to what Aaron was saying. It I like to tell recruits, any weight room experience is good regardless of what level that is. Just being familiar with the weight room and how it operates and what equipment looks like and how, things like that is helpful. Not a prerequisite necessarily, but one less thing I have to worry about. The thing that I think, it's like in my perfect scenario, if I can get kids coming in who move well, who are mobile, who look really solid in certain movement patterns, we can develop strength and power and all those things. But it makes things a lot easier if they're already general good movers. But outside of that, outside of what they're physically doing, and I think this is comes along with this level of play just in general. But if we've got a kid who's got a high work ethic, then I mean, I can work with them from there. I joke sometimes that although I wouldn't literally do this, I could tell our girls to go do a handstand in the corner for an hour, and they do it if they thought that, I thought it was gonna benefit them. So that type of kid who is just bought into um, being the best athlete that they can be for their sport, if you've got that, then we can build you from there for sure.
Are you saying I should stop doing handstands for an hour?
Hey, do what you want. Up to your programming.
Literally.
God, the secret.
That's it.
It's out. It's out. It's out. And to both of you, I think what I liked and I hear the most and that I agree with the most is just the fact that it's just competency. To me, that's just competency, moving your body. Like knowing where your body is in space and what a lot of the times for me, it just starts with landing, like landing mechanics. You'll see some like crazy kid who's got this incredible amount of springs on them, and they land like trash, and then they're just at a high risk for a lot of things to go on. And it doesn't mean they've been hurt. I've had kids come to me that look crazy that have zero training experience or any weight room experience at all, that I actually really I prefer that because they're gifted. They're naturally gifted in a certain, in a way in their sport. And then I get to mold them with the training, and they don't have any, not to hate on it, but like any ideas about what my training should look like. Because that's the biggest killer for me in the weight room and in the program in general is if you've gone and you've just been with one of those hardcore people that's just gonna like absolutely bury you all the time, and that's what you expect, which I'm learning is club volleyball, like generally speaking, they just get buried a lot and they think that that's what is making them or going to make them better. When I have to come around and say, no, like more is not better, better is better. And here's what I do in order to make you better. And over the past 3 years with LSU volleyball, we've had that buy in. And I'm very fortunate to have a majority of the newcomers come in the spring and not have to fight that battle in the fall. So I think my answer changes based on when I get them in the year because I'm happy to start from zero and have nothing and zero, no experience, no movement competency, no nothing. I'm happy to start with that in the spring. That's great. But when I get those kids in August, they show up in, July or August like that. That's harder, right? Yes, I would prefer that you have some kind of training, training age, some kind of background, some kind of history that will help me help you not break in your freshman season because that's the goal, right? It's availability over everything. And I very much carry in a health over performance mindset. Your numbers, all of this stuff that I'm looking at, none of that matters if you're injured. I don't. That it just doesn't help me. So I think that my answer changes based on when these kids arrive on campus and everything from there. I've had transfers come in that look like duty from programs where they just kind of got swept aside, and that's nobody's fault. It happens. I get it. Like kids fall through the cracks. And I've had freshmen come in and look incredible that I'm like, how am I like what am I gonna do that makes this kid better, right? And start picking things apart.
I would just echo everything everybody said. I would kind of put it in a theme like this, right? So I have 4 daughters. 3 of my 4 daughters play club volleyball. I've worked with 2 high level clubs here in Austin, and so I've seen like the back door of what these girls are doing before they actually get on campus and how they're trained. So I'd say it like this. I'd say probably 90, 95, 99% of these girls coming in have been trained. They're overdeveloped in volleyball and underdeveloped physically in the weight room.
Mhm.
And so when we get these kids, because they haven't had the strength training, the movement prep and all that, their bodies already have mileage on it. So the good and bad of that is, right? The bad is like, oh, they may be weak in some spots or vulnerable, like AK said, but the good is you can develop them really quick, right? If they'll start spending some
Mhm.
time. So I say that's kind of the big thing. The things I've seen in our testing, there's been 2 things that I would say, well, really 3. AK said one, rate of forced absorption, RFA, just their land ability to absorb. I'll never forget we had a player, Breon Butler, could touch almost 11 foot, but man, when she landed, it looked like Bambi on ice freshman year. And so I wasn't worried about her jumping higher. I just didn't want to mess her up in her career. So I would say you're landing, but I would also say single leg strength continually is down on everybody across the board. So anybody can work on that, right? And then I would say the one thing I fight all the time is just lean mass. I don't want to get big. I don't want to be I mean, I talked to a freshman today about, dude, I'm not trying to get you big. I'm trying to keep you healthy. I'm trying to make you powerful and more explosive. We're going to put the muscle and the power in the right place. We're not doing bodybuilding. So I say those are the 3 things I think I've seen just year after year just recycle.
Yeah, those are super interesting trends to note that way. And as you all alluded to that way, it seems like landing and general physical qualities can really take you such a long way in the sport of volleyball that way. And it's comical to me different times. Some of the new things I see on Instagram that people are doing from a sport specificity training standpoint at a young age. There's one that came up the other day. I'll have to dig it up after this where they had like bands on both arms and both legs and they were jumping up and spiking over and over again. It's just like, at what point are we doing more harm than good with some of this sport specific stuff? And at what point do we maybe have to just step back a little bit and just focus on the athlete right in front of us that way? And I think another piece to that is how we think about these athletes and how we profile them, if you will, which has been this latest and greatest trendy term in our world that way, is profiling athletes or subtyping them into categories and so on that way. And it seems like everyone's approached this differently. And in a lot of ways, in my own mind, I see some parallels between volleyball and basketball in the sense that you could have a 5'3" girl on the same team as a 6'6" girl, and they might be playing the same sport, but they're going to play that same sport in a different position with a drastically different strategy and different demand that way. In your own training, how have you gone about kind of subtyping or categorizing the athletes that you work with in volleyball, if you do it at all? Are they all kind of doing the same thing, or do we have kind of separate little buckets for different groups on the team?
I know you have like 9
Yeah.
programs going.
Yeah, I'll kind of kick this one off. So I'll just confess all my sin right now before I So when I first started training volleyball, a long time ago in Texas, everybody was on the same sheet, right? And if you're doing that now, there's no shame in that. That's, I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And so what I have found that, at Texas, they'll test with our sports science with Travis, then they'll get cleared by medical too. And so, man, I'm gonna take our Deanne Kaler is our athletic trainer. She's amazing. We've worked together for over 20 years. She's my work wife. I call her my work wife. And we will sit down, and what I've landed, I have 4 positions, right? You got your setters, you've got your outsides, your littles, and your middles. And so I have those 4 base programs based off who's healthy, who's not. And then from there, depending on whether they've had an injury or they've got some kind of modification, then I will break off individual programs depending on that. So I've had anywhere from 7 to 9 different programs going at the same time. I'm talking about most of these are like either like I've had girls that can't do extension work because they've had stress fractures in their backs. I've had girls that's had open heart surgery. You probably guess who that is if you knew that she can't put bars in the front. She can't do cleans and all that. I've had girls with shoulder reconstructions, bilateral hip. You name it, I've seen it. And so instead of trying to force them into this program that just is always have to keep telling them what to do, it's easier for me to have all these separate programs that, number one, kind of matches what the athletic trainer sports med's trying to accomplish to keep them healthy. And then I try to fill in the buckets and weaknesses there that I see to make that athlete. And then it just shows too that what I found, what you said, AK, they just stay healthy longer. Because now I can build their program around not just the weight room, but also some things I can do to bridge the gap from the training room to my area that kind of keeps them healthy. And we speak the same language. So mine's kind of evolved from one sheet to now it's like I got all these crazy things going on. So I don't know, it's not complex either, if that makes sense. It's pretty simple.
I was gonna say, I mean, Donnie kind of said it all there. Like I think I don't want to speak on all our behalves, but I think when you look at it from like a macro level, like there's going to be a lot of the same like general thematic elements for the entire team. And like when you look at it from a 30,000-foot view, it may look like one sheet, but when you take into context, like, the physical constraints from sports med or, performance profiling, like Dan mentioned, like there's going to be a lot of those subtle differences. So, yeah, I think if you're just trying to force a square peg in a round hole if everyone is on the exact same thing, but at the same time, there's a fine line and a middle ground where we're chasing the same general adaptations more than likely, like year round as a team. But how we do that and the methods that we do that, I mean, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, which is a terrible saying. I've never understood that.
So real quick, Aaron, just to jump right back in. So again, going back to a lot of these kids, some of them have so many tendinopathy problems when they get in there. So some of them may need more concentric work, but some may need more iso work. So again, just depends. Again, same principles, same kind of sheet, but we're just attacking different areas.
Yeah, it's you want to work structural integrity, but how you do that, like there's different ways and different needs that those athletes are going to have for sure.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'll like agree with everything both of you guys just said. And it's like, we've got for the team as a whole, like the same goal generally, or these common themes, but then whether it be based on position group or injury modification or even like age, training age and year, and how much do they play versus how much do they not play, whatever, that kind of thing. Those all definitely have a hand in determining like what the specifics of that kid's program looks like. And for me, like, I feel like every year it evolves slightly just depending on what the group that I have looks like in front of me. When I started and took over this team, I had an insanely veteran group. It was like a couple sixth year kids, a couple fifth year, like it was basically all seniors and older is what it felt like. And then that quickly turned into like all freshman, sophomore group right after that. So that program the first year obviously looked totally different than what it looked like the second year. It's still the same goal of stay healthy, jump high, hit the ball hard. But the way we went about doing that was different year to year.
Y'all are all wrong. One sheet, one program. If we're not strong, you're freaking wrong. Um, no, I mean, my biggest thing, and the thing that I lead with, whatever, last week when we started, is that it's my job to adapt my program to fit you. You don't need to adapt to fit the program. That's the biggest thing that's been very clear. I am personal modification. Like Donnie's got 8 or 9 programs. I might have 20 different programs rolling in that room because I give them so much choice. They get a say in how they train. Same as I've got kids with that will never axially load because they've had low back injuries there, or bulging discs, or God forbid, like completely slipped or ruptured. So finding ways to keep those kids available. I mean, we had 100% availability rate this last year, and that hasn't happened. And it's one of those things that I've got an incredible athletic trainer as well. And he and I had that connection this last year where we were just like, you're on it, I'm on it. I'll take care of that. You take care of this. Cool. Like, let's share this. Here's what I'm doing. What are you doing? And it married that it bridged the gap completely, right? We married our programs to where if I wasn't doing something, he was. When I was hitting isometrics and I dove so deep into isos and really just trunk control, like lumbopelvic control, like we went crazy with just really the trunk. During in season, we left the legs and the arms kind of like they were, and we worked a lot more on their trunk control, and it went a long way for us. But all that, I digress. It was just communication with my AT and with the kids because they get a say in how they train. If they don't like something, 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to make them do it because what's happening there? They're not executing well. They're not doing what I want them to do. But when we change that back squat to a Zercher, all of a sudden they're in love with this movement because it doesn't hurt them. And so like they're like, let's go, let's figure out a way to do this. Or they don't want to ever touch a barbell and do a hang clean pull, but they'll do trap bar jumps. Great. Love that. What am I looking at and what am I doing? And what do I want the end result to be? And in the spring, I like to force velocity profile everybody because I have the time. I have a lot more time with them, and we got so much out of it last year, and it was just way more tailored to each kid. So I bucketed them into force bias and velocity bias groups and then went from there. So last year, I think I had more autonomy in the program than anything. And it's just this year I've kind of gone the other way with it, and we're starting a throws program. Like, I'm a former thrower. We started working in some arm speed stuff. That was one of the things that came up in our end of year meetings as a staff, that they would like to see some arm speed work. And I was like, bet. I didn't even know. You guys should have come to me sooner. Like, let's go. Let's start throwing. I ordered a ton of like weighted balls, drive line balls. I've got my stuff ready. And it's something that I'll get to do with them now twice a week, 15, 20 minutes. It's not going to take a lot, but it's incredibly intentional. And that's all the coaches wanted to see. And the rest of it, they don't ask me about. So if I get results, great.
You brought up the trunk there, AK, and as Donnie was talking, he mentioned a few of the different injuries that he's seen in the volleyball population that way. And this is certainly one sport where you can pretty much expect to see anything and everything, right? From typical little ankle sprains and ankle rolls and foot injuries from the weird landing to knee injuries from the weird landings to all kinds of shoulder stuff from the amount of swinging and volume that they get overhead. Like, to me, the volleyball athlete is an overhead athlete, but they're doing it in such a unique way in that almost every time they hit the ball, they're up in the air. So it's like this weird open chain, feet are not on ground rotation that occurs, that's drastically different than most other over at sports that we commonly think of, like tennis or baseball, softball, that sort of thing that way. What's been your process? Obviously, we've outlined some of the different things you've done to mitigate injuries that way. However, they sometimes are unavoidable or happen despite our best efforts. And then we have to begin this process of returning the athlete to play afterwards. What has been your kind of personal return to play process? And how might that have evolved over time as you've been working in the volleyball space that way? And you can take that any way you want. I don't care if it's back injury, shoulder injury, knee injury, like anything that way, if there's something that jumps out to you.
I think with everything now, I've delved way more into like isometric, eccentric control and returning the body to stability. Um, I had an aha moment this last year, like just reading up on some stuff, and we were talking about muscle action, and they're like, "Well, how does muscle action begin?" And I was like, you want to go into like firing synapses? Like, do you want to go that deep on this?" And they were like, "No, no, really, like it starts with an isometric contraction." And I was like, "Oh, like it blew my mind, right?" So the body is starting at stable, goes into dynamic, right, with your concentric movement, and is trying to return to stability every single time. So that's where I lock in now. Whenever I'm trying to return an athlete to play, that's where we're gonna start. I have personally, this isn't an advertisement, but I use ISOFIT, and I ordered 10 units this last year because I started getting really into it, and I was like, "I wanna use this with these kids at least twice a week. I can't just have 1 unit, give me 10." And so we did, and I built programs around it. I built recovery days off of it. Isometrics don't always have to be maximal. Sometimes I'm looking at duration, sometimes I'm looking at angles, sometimes I'm looking at, we are looking at higher intensities. We're going into yielding isometrics, we're going into quasi isometrics. We're doing all these things that are still serving a purpose and removing the noise of movement, which is usually the issue when you're returning from an injury. So that's been my biggest aha moment. And we use it for everything: low body, upper body, trunk, anti rotation. Like we're all on that. And I personally, as a thrower, was always in the mindset with my coach of anti rotation before you throw or you hit, right? Whatever it is, anti rotation before rotation. And I've kind of brought that into what we're doing, and it's been great. And we've really kind of played with that when we're talking shoulder injuries or back injuries. I've been very fortunate, knock on all the wood, to not have a lot of low body injuries. So that hasn't been something that I've really had to attack with volleyball, but in other places, the ACL return to plays, exact same thing. It's been how do you mitigate muscle loss, right? How do you mitigate that atrophy? And I think isometrics are a great place for me. And to start, finish, continue with, they'll do them all year round and they know it. And that's what I use.
Yeah, I mean, echo that. Really this past year, I really jumped on the isometric bandwagon also. We also isofits, and it's just isometrics are awesome because like AK said, it's, you can do them maximally, you can do them submaximally, you can get really, really creative with them, which are cool. Something that we did a lot of was so again, knock on wood, we've been really healthy and really available, but that's not to say that, aches and pains and things don't come up from time to time. So if we've got a kid that maybe they're not injured per se, but their knee doesn't feel great or their ankle doesn't feel great or it's a tendinopathy or whatever, we can kind of utilize isometrics strategically to fill the gap on what may have been like the original plan from a weight room standpoint, and then where we can meet them better. So yeah, I mean, I'm there with you. That's a huge thing that I've started specifically in the last year or so. Another thing, I don't know if this really answers your question, but just from an injury standpoint, something that's helpful, as a strength coach, and this is probably pretty common amongst like this group of people in this conversation, but I know there's a lot of strength coaches at a lot of levels that don't have as much proximity to the team, meaning they're not at practice every day. They may just be in the weight room with that group. Like they're a strength coach, they're a weight room coach. But when you've got, multiple teams, sometimes you can't be at practice every day or you can't be at every game or whatever. Thankfully for me, I've got the luxury of that where I'm at practice every single day. I'm at games, I travel, whatever, which is good from an eye test standpoint where I can see what's happening. If something does come up, I know it right away. But the ability to also every day talk to the athletic trainer and get her opinion on things and kind of tackle issues before they're really issues. That's huge. Just again, being proximal to the sport and being able to be around it.
Yeah, I'd say probably for us, what I've kind of done over the years, we have baselines on all of our kids when they come in. So that kind of always helps us to fall back to, like, if something's kind of going a little different, whether it's they're landing harder on one side or the other, we can always dig into that and see kind of what's going on. What I have found, for me personally, I've just been doing it so long. I've got like these protocols, interventions I've kind of developed over the years. Like, let's say, for example, common one, right? I'm having some shoulder pain, some impingement in here and so I'll kind of go from, like, I'll do some flossing, tempering, I'll work some isos. I've got, man, I've probably got over 10,000 hours soft tissue on my hands. So I literally can do from just a restorative process. I can evaluate the capsule, the scap, work with the trainer, have a discussion with her of what she's going to do, and then I'll kind of fill some buckets to try to get it filling. And so I basically what I want to try to do is, injuries are going to happen. We can't keep them from happening, but you want to limit the time that they're either out or modified. And so I love working with the shoulder, really good with the hips and lower back and ankle. So the main problems, and I work with men's tennis too on the men's side of the Olympic sports. So I see a lot of similar kind of, you know, things that pop up. Again, I do not diagnose anything. That is not my role. That would get me in hot water, but I have seen a lot of stuff. And just when you're talking return to play, the faster that I can do an intervention with a kid, the quicker we can get them back on the court. We had, true story, in 23, when our starting setter had some stuff going on lower extremity, and they had to change practice loads and just even the way she had to set. So first of the year, she was banged up hard. I had to change what we're doing in the weight room. And by the end of the year, dude, she was playing great. And obviously we had a good season there at the end. But so I think it's just that performance team of knowing, like, hey, here's what's going on. And just playing the role, right, that you've been asked to play and fill those buckets and help that kid get better. And when you do that, I think, and again, you've got the right people around you. Like, I can only do so much. There's some things, man, I am just not good at. And so, but those are other people on our performance team. They're the best at that. They're going to lead in that area, and I'm support them and back them up and change whatever I need to change to make this the best situation for this kid, so we can get him out of the hole quick. So that's kind of how I do it. Again, it's not much I hadn't seen recently. Hopefully, not too much. And so, just trying to do it that way, it's the best.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add, and don't want to sound like a broken record to all of that. I mean, like the training methods, the ISOs, the proximity to the athletes, training practices, that's going to be your meat and potatoes. I think the only other, like, kind of boring answer that I might add that I think has been helpful for us, and that we kind of live and die by, is just our frequency of training. And as when it comes to resistance training, and the kind of a pairing of both that and matching that training, and having kind of a good, like, like morphocycle system of, like, how our weight room is pairing with, like, what we're doing, like, in practice. Like, our coaches do I've learned so much from our coaching staff, and I've gotten to really kind of see, like, the tactical and technical training side of it, that, like, they think and how they operate outside of just, like, the physical way that, my brain kind of operates. And being able to kind of pair that and make sure that, like, uh, that what stresses that they may have from their certain drills or activities are paired well with, like, where we're putting things that we're doing in the weight room or on the court with me. So keeping that high frequency of what they're doing, and making sure that they have that pretty consistent stimulus, but again, also making sure that that stimulus pairs well with what they're doing from that technical and tactical perspective too.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned, Aaron, like, it comes back to the whole team coming together, not just the team being the athletes, but the team being all the personnel involved, right? Coaching staff, strength coach, trainers. Donnie even mentioned like the sports science team at Texas that way. It's like the more everyone comes together cohesively, the better this process becomes. And as you mentioned, it's like, we can kind of pick apart any one little area they're missing and then just go all in on that in the weight room. And it's interesting too, because I've even just shifted with some of the athletes, even the ones that I was rehabbing this week. I've even shifted a little bit more heavy on eccentrics for some of them, and even some of the frequency that we give them. And then again, this is a physical therapy lens, very different from an S&C standpoint. But some of these kids, we're making them do stuff 3, 4, 5 times a day. It's like the body can handle low load, but very intense stimulus over and over and over again. And it's like, if we don't drive that adaptation when they're not playing, if they're limited that way, and when they do get back on the court, we might have inadequately prepared them that way. The other thing you mentioned there, Aaron, as well, is that concept of just frequency of training. And I know that's something you all do in season, and several of you travel with your teams, which, we have 2 ACC schools represented here, and it's like I can't even keep track of the ACC anymore. I thought it was Atlantic Coast, but somehow it goes from Syracuse to Florida out to California to Texas. Like, you guys are on the road constantly all over the place, and the travel that the sport of volleyball season demands now is unreal. Like, this is a new variable that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think 5 to 10 years ago, it existed, but maybe not quite to the level that it does now. Have you all had to adapt any of your kind of in-season programming based on the travel? And how are you negating the effects of your athletes jumping on sometimes 2 or 3 flights a week in order to kind of maintain the in-season game schedule that they have?
I can give a shout out to Liz, and I'm sure if we ever travel to Texas or LSU to Donnie and AK, but we lift every school that we play at. We at least try to lift in their weight room, and a lot of that is, it's both an emphasis of like getting that stimulus, but also just maintaining a routine, which our staff values and carries at high importance. As far as like, the travel considerations and like the stresses that go along with that, like we may be like a little too elementary, and like how we kind of think of that. It's like, hey, if we have flights, we're going to make sure we drink this much more water. If we're on the road, depending on how many hours it is, we want to make sure we have this much extra time to like move or warm up or do the European circles, like in the hotel or something, so like it's a little remedial, but it's still, I think, effective for us. Now when you like you said, Dan, when we're talking about like, okay, great, we have one weekend where we're playing down at Florida State and Miami, and then the next weekend we're home for 3 days, and then we fly out to Cal and Stanford for 2 games there. It's like that kind of level of travel. I guess my litmus test for that is like when I know I'm feeling it a little bit from travel, like we need to be adjusting what we're doing for the kids, because I'm not doing anything but sitting on a plane and watching and clapping during their games. They're the ones doing all the work. So when it comes to that standpoint, like, or that level of like stress from travel, like we obviously are going to have to adjust, but we try to keep things as consistent as we can, whether we're home or away. I also think that because of the status of volleyball and all of our programs and where that's at, like it's we're fortunate to have a little bit more or higher frequency of some charter flights, or a little bit like easier, more expedited travel, even if it's not like a charter or something, and just good systems in play and good support from our administrations to where like it takes a little bit of that stress off of us. It's not like we're a high school club team that's got to get in a school bus and drive 8 hours and go play 4 games in 2 days or something. Like we're as stressful as it can be. I think we're still a little bit more on the luxurious side of how we travel. But yeah, there's going to be times where we got to make those adjustments though at the same time.
Yeah, travel definitely can throw a wrench in things from time to time. It's funny you said that about the ACC not exactly being on the Atlantic side of the country. We've joked that it's the all coast conference now, on the Atlantic anymore. So that definitely, comes with some longer travel trips. Um, but in my opinion, I think the more difficult thing to manage from a weight room standpoint isn't even the conference schedule. I think for the most part, the conference schedule is fairly, at least for us, we've found a pretty good way to work around it. The ACC typically plays on Fridays and Sundays, and then because we're afforded the opportunity to charter to places, we get the whole week on the front end for the most part, where we're at home, even if we're on the road that weekend. So a lot of good opportunity to train there, and then once we get to wherever we're going. We don't typically lift on the road, but we'll kind of do things on a one-on-one basis based on who the kid is, what they want, what they feel like they need. We'll do some specific things from there. The thing that I think is more challenging is the September schedule when we're playing non-conference because boy, I mean, you're everywhere. You may be in, this state for 4 days, and then you're taking off from there and going across the country, and it's difficult to keep a consistent schedule. But I think from a weight room training standpoint, and just keeping the kids feeling good when you're moving around and flying all the time like that, and playing at a high level so consistently. But I think just keeping the main thing, like keeping volleyball, and keeping them feeling good and playing well as a priority. And that may look different day to day or week to week. And then obviously doing enough from a weight room standpoint where by the time conference and then November and December with postseason play rolls around, we can still train at a high level and peak at the right time.
I take back everything I said as soon as you mentioned the September schedule. You're absolutely right. I would that was such a wild wake-up call for me in my first season of, like, holy cow, this blows. Like, we are going I'm not even day by day. I feel like I'm hour by hour trying to figure out what to do here. But conference was definitely a lot nicer, and I guess that's where my brain is, like, leaning on of, like, the most immediate or most recent thing. But, yeah, holy cow, September sucks, man.
It's rough for sure.
It scarred me too. I think we were home for 9 days in the whole month of September. Like, that was terrible. Yeah. It was awful. Not that I'll say anything anybody else hasn't said. I guess one tiny thing is just routines. I'll put them into play early and throw it on their plate because once they figure out what helps them feel good, it goes a long way to just teach them simple routines and have that in your back pocket, for me anyway, to tell them, no, I need you to go through your lax ball stuff. I need you to go through your posterior shoulder capsule releases. Like, I need you to go through that because our one AT that travels with you, this poor man is going to be up until 3 a.m. doing treatments for everybody when you can do your soft tissue stuff yourself, right? You can do these certain movements yourself. And I think that for me on the road, I have a bag that I travel with that has all my little toys in it. And when we have things that we can't do or can do, or somebody gets cut early from practice for whatever reason, they come see me and we find things to do. And it's been helpful for that too, because it's helped them establish routine that they enjoy before playing, after we fly, whatever it is. And then that's what they'll ask for. They'll ask for 15 or 20 minutes with me before we start. And then I don't even have to ask the coaches. It just kind of happens at that point. And so the last couple years has been really good for that because everybody's a little bit more bought in. My assistant coaches will jump in post travel on our 20-minute decompression, like after we travel. Everybody's in on that. My head coach is on the floor. Coacher Tanya gets on the floor. It's amazing. I know. It's crazy. So everybody will be part of it, and I think that helps just create that culture of hey, yeah, we're bought in. We go on morning walks. You have to drink a whole water bottle when we go on those walks together. Like we do things very intentionally in order to give them the best shot. It's not 100%. It's not foolproof, but I want to give you the best shot to move well, to feel good, right? To stay hydrated after travel and all the things.
Yeah, just the only thing to add, maybe a little different lens of how I've changed the thought process on this. And I got this kind of from Tim Pillow. I don't know if you're Tim Pillow. He's the director for men's volleyball and women's water polo out in LA and Anaheim. But early on, what I've learned with volleyball, you guys just said it yourself, preseason's a mess, dude. And so I've kind of taken the pressure off myself. I'll do first 7 to 10 days. I'm not really doing a ton with them in the weight room. I'm allowing them to, because they're gonna have so many hours on the court and they're gonna be traveling, I'm gonna let them have more time. We'll do a little bit, but like that first week, I'm just trying to keep them from trying to get the soreness out from practicing so much. And then as they start to kind of adjust out and level out, we'll start to train a little bit. What I think my goal has been is I want them to be training a lot heavier and more frequently at the end of the season because our practice loads are going down and the batteries they're getting shot. They're getting worn out from travel and just weeks and months of volleyball. So I want to try to recharge the battery with, maybe not many exercises, but just multiple sets of like power endurance type stuff on the back end. So I want to work for wherever the tournament's at, work backwards. I want their biggest training blocks to be kind of going into that season and not as much on the front end. It's made it easier for me. And the coaches are more likely to give me more time during that time because practices are getting out quicker. So it makes it easier on me too. So that's kind of how I've adjusted it.
AK, you mentioned about the team walks and so on that way, and I know from recent conversations that you also have the team coffee reviews that occur as you're traveling country that way. Are there any other routines or habits that your teams have developed as you've been traveling that way that, maybe don't add a, traditional strength and conditioning element to it, but add something to this team culture or some kind of positive thing through whether that's just walking together, grabbing coffee together, any other kind of routines that your teams have implemented that go a long way in some intangible trying to think what I want to say. They do forget it. I'm just giving up on this. Basically anything that y'all do that provides a ton of benefit in ways that we might not traditionally think about.
We play a lot of cards on the road. And that's not just the staff, that's the girls in there. Which is like it's fun because that's an easy way for all of us to like mentally decompress a little bit. You're physically pressing for the most part. But it's nice too because I mean, I know I feel it, like, we're on the road a lot, you're away from home, and like Aaron said earlier, I'm not the one who's out there playing volleyball, so the girls definitely feel it when they're away from home, and, they're also dealing with school and just all these other environmental stressors, so, I don't know, playing cards is just a fun way to enjoy our time a little bit more, and for not forget about volleyball, but just decompress a little and have some fun. I mean, at the end of the day, we're working with young kids and, um, life's too short to be serious all the time.
I know I just mentioned it a little bit ago. And does anyone else, because this is a total foreign thing for me, but like on the physical side, like doing circles, does anyone else do that or know what that is? Okay, so
You said it earlier, and I was like, "What the heck is this guy talking
okay,
about?"
so I don't know. All right. Well, I feel a little bit validated from that awkward silence, so that's good. Because this was totally foreign to me. But like our first away trip, our head coach comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, yeah, like one of your duties on the road is like you're in charge of doing circles with the team." And of course, I'm like trying to play it cool, like, "Oh yeah, sick. I love circles." Um, and then he's like, and then he goes on to explain what it is. And because he played overseas, at a bunch of different random European countries back in his day, and he made it seem like it's a common European thing that like as part of their warm-ups they do what they call circles, and that's become kind of a staple in a lot of our travel trips, especially like after a long flight or drive, we get to a hotel and move around, and we like all it is literally think of it like very to put it in our terms, all it is just low intensity or low like volitional contraction, like cars, controlled articular rotation. So like, but it's just kind of funny the way that we do it. Is he's like, yeah, you got to do it this way. Like you got to start from the ankles, and it's like we're just like rolling our feet around like on the ground. And he's like, all right, switch sides, and then like you grab your knees and then the quarter squat and like kind of circle around. Like it looks, I'll be honest, kind of looks a little stupid when you see a group of 15 girls and you know, a big staff doing it all together. But like in that kind of silliness, like it's also like you were alluding to, Dan, like kind of endearing for us and a little bit of team building of like, yeah, let's do our silly little circles that we love. And you know, we'll work our way up. We'll get some shoulder twists, kind of your arm circles, like we're back in elementary school, and just to get a little bit of blood flow and general movement. It's by no means like a true warm up, but it's been a staple for us as something that like gets us in a rhythm or routine of doing something to move that might be different than like, all right, let's do our regular warm up and our dynamic stretches in the hotel, just to kind of mix it up for us and keep it interesting for us. But like I said, I do feel a little validated. I thought, like I said earlier, like I'm the new guy in the volleyball world here, especially on this call. So I thought circles were just like the thing, because that's what our head coach made it seem like. But that's good to know that I'm not the only one that's like, what the hell is that?
Not at all, but you do have me like in my head right now, just absolutely cracking up at the thought of having any of my 6+ footers do any of that, because it would just
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
nothing would look normal, and we'd be in public, so they'd all be like hee hee, like laughing at each other. We'd we would die. It would be we just go on walks and get coffee together. For context, for people who don't know, that's what Dan was alluding to. We go on coffee walks, we go get coffee, we move, right? It'll be 10, 15, 20 minutes max, and we go sit, we talk for a little bit while everybody gets their coffee, and we walk back. And then, depending on the trip, we'll do other things. But I want to try circles now just to mess with people. I'm gonna do that and be like, tell my coaches, "What do you mean you don't know what circles are?"
yeah. Tell
Am
all the best European teams do it. So
amateurs.
yeah.
I feel like
Coach,
you're
you're
right.
the only one.
I've done circles before. I didn't know that it had an official name. Once Aaron started going through it, I mean, yeah, I've definitely done that, and I mean, we did it at the SEC tournament when we got off the plane. But that's good to know it's got an official term, Aaron. Hey, you learn something new every
Circles.
day. Circles.
I think we would start at the fingers personally. Like, what are we doing?
Oh, we are. So we like some of our European girls like will be familiar with them. We're like, oh, what have y'all done? And like some of their favorites are just twisting the wrists. It's like, all right, great, let's do that.
Have you ever met? He passed away recently. God rest his soul. Steve Cotter. Did you guys ever meet him? Anyway, he kind of we brought him for a couple days in years ago, and he took us through all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure he travels all over. He used to travel all over the world teaching kettlebell classes. Guy was a master with that. I mean, the dude could do pistol squat with like a 70-pound loaded, front loaded kettle. Dude was a beast. But yeah, he would do all that stuff. But now I know what it's called, so it's good.
Well, that's good to know. Now I have a name to try to look up because when I was first tasked with like, hey, you're running circles in like 2 hours, I'm sitting there on my phone like Googling like volleyball circles and
Yeah.
I'm getting nothing.
Literally getting photos of like a volleyball, and they're like,
Yeah, it's like it's useless searches, but now I can put a name to a theme. So appreciate that, coach.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely incredible. And as we were chatting earlier, Donnie, you had mentioned that, you had made a few mistakes throughout your coaching career, which I had to Google it just to make sure I got the number right. 29, 30 years coaching, correct?
Yeah. I've been coaching 31, 29 at Texas starting this week. So been here.
So this is where I tell you that I'm 28 years old myself. So you've been coaching longer than I've been alive that way, and you've learned a lot, and all of you have learned a lot through your experiences that way. And I found sometimes the best lessons are not necessarily what to do, but what not to do. And I'll give an example of that myself. The first individual that I ever rehabbed an ACL for that way, we progressed him way too quickly because there was some things that weren't shared by that individual that occurred during the surgery that I found out 2 weeks later from his surgeon. It's like, well, that would have been great to know day one. So we moved a little too quick, and that was a lesson that stuck with me to get it right the first time, and we became good friends with a lot of surgeons through that approach, just trying to get it right from the first time. Has there been any mistakes or any kind of lessons that you've learned, or things that maybe didn't go as well as you thought they were going to go in your coaching career, whether that's with volleyball or even other sports that y'all have worked with that way, that just kind of stick with you, and we took a lot from it, if you will?
Man, how much time you got?
I can buckle up, dude. I got a 9 p.m. bedtime, but I'll push it back just for you, Aaron.
Wait,
No,
don't
don't
push
do-
mine back too. That's rude.
I was about to say, I got a 9 p.m. bedtime too. We're not doing that.
Like 4 a.m. wake ups, dude. I'm with you though. Like Aaron, I'm right there with you because I sit there and even in my not 20 years, in my 10 years, like even from my time being an athlete, I look back at my own training and I'm like, oh, it could have been so much better if I had done XYZ, or if I had not been so concerned with how much I was power cleaning and just worried about how well I was moving or how well I was power cleaning, because I'm pretty freaking great at clean. Don't get me wrong. But like I've done away with Olympic lifts. I've done away with certain movements altogether just because of the efficiency piece. Because now collegiate athletics, I don't have 4 years with somebody. I might have a year. I might have 6 months with them. Shoot. I might not even have that long. So I think there's a lot of things that I went from complex to incredibly, incredibly simple. And I'm gonna leave that right there because I don't want to be here till 10 p.m.
Yeah, I mean the concept of like simplification, I think has been a big learning point for me, and you can take that in a million different ways. I've been extremely blessed and really fortunate to have a lot of good mentors to put me and help me get on a great trajectory for my career, my path, and my experiences, and that includes Donnie. So shout out Coach Maib. And I think like going through that, the trajectory of my career though, like I think we've all been like that kind of like young, dumb, overly eager, like, oh, this is great, and I need to do this, and this is the next best thing. And well, I think I'm really good at this, so this is what I'm gonna like propose to our coaches of like how we do things. And even if it might be the best thing, quote unquote, or the better thing than what systems might already be ingrained, it doesn't make it like the right way or the right thing to go about. And I've as I now in more of a leadership role, just learning to take things a little bit slower and kind of take a step back, and use 2 ears and one mouth. There's a reason we have that, and kind of live by those words, like I think is really important. And then again, like starting simple doesn't mean you can't build to complex. And I think like we're lucky in a lot of ways, in a lot of different areas, like that we can get pretty complex and really specific and more like advanced and modernized with a lot of our approaches. But it's I think a slow cook process for a lot of things, though, and doesn't always start off that way.
I got like three things here for you, Aaron. First of all, thank you for the kind words. You were a rock star, obviously, and you still are when you were at Texas. Quotes. I got some quotes. Eddie Reese says this. Eddie's winningest swim coach in the history. The guy's the GOAT, true GOAT. When in doubt, take it out. Right. And so I have literally been times where I've like done lots of times we overthink it, right? And we do too much, or we add this. Dude, if you just like, if you're really wrestling with it, just take it out. And I have kind of learned that the hard way, but it definitely echoes. And then Coach Dan Paff, who's a real good friend and a mentor to me, says this about training, right? I'd rather be a mile short than an inch over. And if you think about that, it's so true. Like, I'd rather come up short, like this way short than because once you're over, like you can't get that back, right? And so I think those are two of my favorite ones. And then this third quote is a Star Wars quote. Sorry, I'm kind of dating myself here, but it goes like this, right? And I forget, I think it was Obi-Wan Kenobi who said this. Only a Sith thinks in absolutes. And the more I do this, I was in a sauna tonight, and this guy, I was telling him what I was doing. He's like, "Oh, you know a little bit about training." I go, "You know what? I've actually the older I get, the more I realize I don't know. When I was younger, I thought I had all the answers. Now I have less answers and more questions as I've gotten older. So I would say, I think Aaron, you said it, but there's so many different ways to train these young ladies now, and there's not just one way that, oh, we have to do this. Like, no, I've learned if there's somebody who is the guru and they're black and white and they're thinking in absolutes, I'm running. Like, you tell me I have to squat a certain depth, I'm out. Like, some kids can squat deep. It's good for them, but some kids, that's gonna mess up her bulging disc. I don't need her. The trochanter is not fitting there correctly. She's got a little butt wink. I mean, we're loading her spine axial. She's gonna be done, you know. So I just think the more I do this, there's so many different ways that you can train these kids and make them better. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, just helping them win. So there's only a Sith thinks in absolutes.
Don't be a Sith.
Don't do that.
Oh, don't do it.
I'll kind of close us out on this one with a little less of a training mistake, which I mean I've made plenty of those. A little more of just on like the personal side of things. I don't have to say it for us to all know that coaching and working in the world of college athletics takes a ton of time, regardless of what time of year that is. It's a huge commitment from a physical, like you're there on the job standpoint, but also just a mental and an emotional standpoint. It can be a lot. And I'm the best strength coach when I'm a better me outside of my job. So that looks different year round and in different ways, but just finding ways to the cliche, you can't pour out of an empty cup, like keep my cup full. And that's like I love being outdoors. So if I get outside and go for a hike or take my dogs for a walk or whatever that looks like. And in the fall, that definitely looks different than it does in the spring and in the summer. But just finding ways to make sure I'm, taking care of myself so that I can be the best then for my athletes. Because when I'm not prioritizing that piece of it, I'm a worse strength coach for it.
Liz, where have you been in my life? I mean, dude, I didn't get to hear that this year. I've had probably one of the most run ragged years. So yeah, that's a lesson I'm definitely learning right now too. So good stuff.
It's certainly easier said than done. I'm not gonna pretend. That's why I said it's a mistake I've made and lesson I'm learning.
You ever seen that? It's funny. I've seen this little meme, or whatever, this fuel tank, this 18-wheeler fuel. He's running around. He's got a huge tank full of gas to help people, but he ran out of gas. The truck ran out of gas, and he can't get it to nobody, man. That has definitely been me a little bit. So good word.
As y'all alluded to, we could probably talk about this all night long that way. But for people listening who want to find out more about y'all, reach out with questions and keep up with all the amazing stuff y'all do in the space that way, where can they find you at online and that sort of thing? Instagram handles, it's volleyball, so maybe TikTok handles. Anyone doing those TikTok dances on the sidelines yet? No?
Oh my God.
Just snail mail for me. You got to mail me a letter.
Oh,
I was actually just going to send you a telegraph, Eric.
Yeah, perfect. Some smoke signals.
that's amazing. Can we do that? Can that be preference? I'll do it. Actually, I enjoy site visits. I'm not gonna lie to you. Donnie knows that. I would rather just show up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I feel like that should be the preferred way. Yeah, people just
It
pop by
is
in
my
person,
preference.
snag a
Yeah,
cup of
buy me a cup
coffee,
of
hung out
coffee.
for an hour or two. I know.
That's it. That's it.
Coffee
I'm off social media personally right now, but I do have an Instagram and it's just my name. It's Ashley Kowalewski. Best of luck spelling that, everybody out there. But my work email is just ashk@lsu.edu, and that's about as easy as it gets. And yeah, that's it.
I'm on the social medias too. I recently made my first LinkedIn and have been trying to capitalize on that though the last
Wow.
several months. So you can catch me on my professional side on LinkedIn. I can I've made a whopping 2 posts on there. And I don't know what viral is for LinkedIn, but
You are from Pedro Mendoza, apparently. Y'all's LinkedIn's are blown up.
I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what my information is on there, so don't go look for me there. I'm on Instagram. I'm Coach Liz Dupree, but I'm on there, but I'm not great about posting on it. That's something I'm gonna try to be better at this year. So maybe you'll see some stuff from me. We'll see.
I am definitely, even though I'm a little older, I do it for the gram, baby. I'm on the gram.
Yeah, he does.
I love to do stories. My kids always are cracking on me, but I'm pretty responsive on Instagram. So if you just DM me, I'll usually get back. Just at Donnie Maib. He's probably the quickest way to hit me. So
Yeah, that's awesome. We'll link to all of that in the description below. That way, if you didn't quite catch it, you can just click there and see how to get a hold of these amazing people. This was incredible. Thank you so much for y'all's time and everything y'all are doing in the space.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah,
yeah,
thanks.
thank you. This is great.